We'll miss the work and the relationships. But I'm not here to talk about the end of something. A new legislative session means we should talk about beginnings. It was 35 years ago this week when I took my first oath of office as a legislator from the Yakima Valley. I took that oath in this building alongside many new faces. My colleagues and I had great conviction in those days, tremendous zeal, and full heads of hair. We were a new generation of legislators who sought to upend the status quo. Today I notice the new faces around Olympia. I see fresh visions for where we want to take our state. Leaders who want to make these dreams for Washington reality as fast as possible. My freshman class quickly saw that change often takes patience and resilience. But think about the progress we have made and the time and efforts it took to make it. We used to be a state that didn't fund early childhood education until a champion named Representative June Leonard started moving the needle. We didn't have outdoor heat protections for our farm workers. We didn't have paid family leave, a public health option, or a strategy to end youth homelessness. Washingtonians didn't have marriage equality. But brave visionaries like Senator Cal Anderson weren't quiet about this injustice. Thanks to years of work by undaunted individuals who showed up session after session, all of these things came to pass eventually. Since my terms in the legislature, I've represented congressional districts on both sides of the Cascades. I've held 3 terms as governor. And in this moment, our moment, I see a state that is evergreen and ever going forward. And to the new leaders here today, I say this: you will inevitably face frustration. You will struggle with the tyranny of the status quo. Do not lose patience. Do not trade in courage for comfort. Never forget that Martin Luther King said the moral arc of the universe bends slowly but steadily towards justice, if we bend it. Even as governor, it took years to pass Cap and Invest, a capital gains tax, an assault weapons ban, and the nation's most generous college financial aid program. We kept working year in and year out. Eventually, we hit tremendous milestones in our state's tremendous history. Together, we complied with the McCleary ruling for funding schools, and it took years, but with heroic effort, we got it done. Together, we met the rapidly growing behavioral health demands highlighted by the True Blood ruling. Together, we reduced youth homelessness by 40%. Together, we've created the nation's best paid family leave, which has received over 1 million paid claims. Together, we passed the 2 biggest transportation funding packages in state history, putting thousands of people to work and broadening our focus beyond highways to include things like free transit for all Washingtonians 18 and younger. Now, there's more work to do, of course, but these accomplishments, I believe, should give us full confidence for the next steps. We keep moving forward. We pull together because we are the state of Washington. We came together through setback and calamity as well. We did it during the Skagit River Bridge collapse. We did it through multiple historic wildfire seasons. The people of Oso did it when the nation's worst landslide in history struck. We've rallied to welcome those fleeing war in places like Syria, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, because Washington values make us a place of refuge and opportunity in an unstable world. And we inspired a nation with how we cared for each other during COVID. You know, if the rest of the country had adopted our Washington approach to the pandemic, close to 500,000 lives could have been saved across America. The secret of our success is we don't leave anybody behind. We follow the science, and we work together to make extremely difficult decisions. Protecting that progress will be challenging this session. This budget situation is both one we've seen before and something entirely unique. The Great Recession triggered major reductions in spending and services, $11 billion in cuts, about the same amount of the budget gap we face today. Today, our economy is not in decline, unlike the Great Recession. Our economy is doing as well as it ever has. But that prosperity hasn't bloomed equally. While fortunes for some are growing, so are the lines at the food banks. Our economy provides more than enough to some, but our regressive tax system is unfair to most working families and jeopardizes our continued progress on the systems that Washingtonians depend on. For those who weren't here during the Great Recession, this is what $11 billion in cuts looks like. Suspending efforts to reduce class sizes and increase teacher pay. Taking state health care away from 40,000 low-income Washingtonians. Cutting higher education, causing tuitions to soar. Slashing mental health services at our state hospitals. And reducing safety net programs for people with disabilities, the elderly, and those living in poverty. It's fitting to look at this budget differently. Abstract numerical cuts actually mean concrete personal pain, like the pain of a kid who has to drop out of college because they can't afford a tuition hike, like the pain of the mother who's told there's no room at the hospital for her child in the midst of a schizophrenic episode. It took years to build back what we lost in that era. My budget in December proposed $2 billion in cuts, budget cuts, but pruning significantly more than that, I would consider a slide back to those dark days. We have a strong economy, so why would we consider cuts to programs like housing or mental and behavioral health services at a time like this? Not when we're finally seeing progress. Not when the number of people needing these services is increasing. Not when these programs are saving lives and making our communities safer and healthier. Washington voters just sent a strong message that they want to continue the path we're building. In 12 years, we have built a strong engine, an engine of increasing justice and increasing health for our residents. We cannot knock it off the tracks just as we've started rolling forward. More than 55% of voters said they want to keep their long-term care. Washingtonians believe our work on health care and human services. We should not consider anything that diminishes Washington's ambitions in this arena. More than 64% of our state said we're keeping our capital gains tax on extraordinary profits. My budget honors that principle by asking those who have benefited the most from Washington's booming economy to play more of a role protecting behavioral health, early learning, and education. Deep budget cuts always fall hardest on the people who cannot afford them, like working families or students trying to manage both their grades and their mental health, or the thousands who've been priced out by a housing market that has not kept pace with demand. Here's one thing I know. There are influential people and organizations that have your phone numbers. We're going to work those contacts hard all this session. Whether the influential voices feed you over lunch or corner you out in those halls, before you take that vote, I hope that you will think about the voiceless, the Washingtonians who don't have your cell phone numbers, and remember why you're here. We have to protect what they value the most too, especially when it comes to our youth and our families. We have to go forward on our investments in young people and education, like the work we've done to grow more support services and resources at our schools with social workers, paraeducators, and counselors. Robert Daniel is a counselor at Kylo Middle School in Federal Way. He's here today. They used to have one counselor serving more than 700 students' emotional, academic, and social needs. Now places like that school have enough counselors meeting the recommended ratio to provide more robust one-on-one counseling to the students who need it most. Counselors like Robert don't just react when students are in crisis. They are proactively involved in bringing out each student's own strengths. And they have more capacity to do that now thanks to this legislature. But they still need your continued support. Thank you, Robert, for being here. I appreciate you representing the whole educational community. Robert, where are you? Where's Robert? There's Robert. All right, there he is. This legislature has a clear mandate to continue its progress in other areas, including climate. Washingtonians have your back in this fight. 62% of voters chose to keep slashing pollution and strengthening our communities through Cap and Invest. On the news the other morning from Los Angeles, there was a woman fleeing the fires who turned around to go back to help save her neighbor's house. And they asked her why she did that. She said, "I just could not sit there and do nothing." When she said that, I thought of our state, about how we are doing something, a big-time something. I'm proud to tell you this. We are building a clean energy economy that is the envy of the entire nation, thanks to this legislature. I look forward to the day when both sides applaud when they get that good news. And that is good news. There's nearly 100% consensus in the scientific community that climate change is happening and that it's human caused. That's why I'm so heartened that we have acted. Since we passed the Climate Commitment Act, the problem statement has only grown, with increasing fires and heat domes, increasing rainstorms and flooding, increasing acidification of our beloved Puget Sound, loss of glacial ice on Mount Rainier. The need for the programs funded by CCA will only continue to increase. It's called the Climate Commitment Act for a reason. I think we ought to honor that commitment. We shouldn't debilitate or steal from the central premise of why voters supported it. We're joined today by Vanessa Kawush from Queets. Vanessa works at the Quinault Tribe's Generations Building, supporting the community's culture through history and language and early education programs. Community resources like these are threatened because the very land it's on is at risk due to sea level rise caused by climate change. Now, they're not the only coastal community living with this threat. The Climate Commitment Act is supporting them by charging polluters and investing in those communities' relocation to higher ground. Thanks to the Climate Commitment Act and the choice by lawmakers to honor its purpose, the people of Queets are getting a new generations building on higher ground, safe from flooding, funded by Cap and Invest. It's just one example of so many how the CCA is keeping our communities to be safer and healthier. Vanessa, we wish you well. We're going to keep you high and dry. So Vanessa, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. We know we have work ahead of us because there's a new federal administration as well. Look, our state will work with anyone on policies that are positive for Washington, but we will not bend the knee to a would-be authoritarian's worst impulses. We will follow the Constitution. We will follow the Constitution, and we will be steadfast in our commitment to the progress of our state together. Bob Ferguson, a guy who knows about defending Washingtonians, will become Washington's 24th governor tomorrow. In November, Washington voters saw two different visions for the future of our state, and they chose to continue the path of progress. Congratulations, Bob. Best of luck. I'm leaving state government Some may applaud. I don't know. We'll find out. Thanks for holding your applause. But my feet remain firmly planted in the fight for Washington's future. Although my administration's time is at an end, we have been running full speed through the tape, and now we're passing the baton. This legislature knows how to keep going. The challenges ahead will not weaken the momentum of what we're doing here. Washington State is a light to the world. We are a beacon of progress by so many measures. Because we follow the science, we work together. We refuse to leave our neighbors behind. When the law said the state could put someone to death, we refused to accept an imperfect system. We ended the death penalty. When the U.S. Supreme Court stole the right of choice, we stood up for reproductive health everywhere by welcoming patients and doctors to Washington State. When working families needed relief, we passed the Working Families Tax Credit, energy rebate, a public health option, free transit for everyone 18 and younger. When we saw LGBTQ youth being abused and manipulated by conversion therapy, we banned it. When we saw our state still had racist housing covenants, we struck those down too. And as deaths rose nationwide, we held the firearms industry accountable and passed some of the strongest reforms in the United States of America. This legislature has a lot of hard work ahead. You have the grit and the vision to keep up this pace of progress. I know this about you. It's why I'm grateful to have worked with all of you. I woke up every morning these last 12 years asking how I could help Washingtonians realize their dreams. And every morning I was filled with confidence in the genius, the compassion, and the grand ambitions of our great state of Washington. Tomorrow morning, I know you all will wake up with the same sense of confidence, optimism, and hope. To Washington, I bid you fair winds and following seas. Thank you. Thank you.